So someone called me a Temu philosopher. I'm not gonna lie, I found it very funny because I'm not. It was a very good insult. I didn't get offended because I'm quite secure in my experience. And the person who left the comment, I don't necessarily think they even really looked on my channel that deeply because they commented on a shorts that I had repurposed from my TikTok. And I think ultimately when you read something online, especially in the age of AI, it is really hard to decipher what's original content. It is difficult because a lot of people are just repackaging things and popping them up on the internet and saying that, look at me, I thought of this all by myself. And usually they didn't. But that is the exact assumption as to why I'm making this video. We are drowning in information. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Substacks, podcasts. There are more think pieces, advice videos, and philosophical frameworks than we know what to do with. And it's definitely more than there has ever been in this point in human history. So on the surface, that looks great. We're in the information age, you know, everything's available. Everyone can like learn all these things and collaborate. And it's great on the surface, right? But the problem is information without experience is literally simply just noise. You can watch 500 videos on boundaries and how to set them and what to do when you need to put them in place, but unless you actually put that into practice and into experience, it's never going to work. You can consume a whole library of self-love, self-care content and self-development content and still not know who you are, because knowing something and having lived through something are two completely different things. We've either completely ignored it, or we just don't want to acknowledge that all we're doing is consuming, and nobody's living. So who does this information economy actually serve, right? I personally think a lot of self-development content, whilst it's very, very good, is actually and definitely designed to help you grow, it's also designed to keep you consuming. It's probably a bit of an oxymoron that you might see my channel as a self-growth, self-help channel, but that's not what it is. I personally believe I'm a spiritual self-discovery person, and I come on my channel to talk about the things that I've learned through my experience of self-discovery. It's going to have the same experience as me. So everyone's anecdotal experience isn't generic advice, in my personal opinion. But the problem with a lot of self-development content is that most of it is for vulnerable audiences, or it's been marketed to vulnerable audiences. People who don't know themselves yet and people who are very lost. And whilst it makes sense that it's marketed to those types of people, it is also very dangerous because if you don't know yourself, like I said in another video, how are you supposed to decipher this information and apply it to yourself correctly? You end up building an identity on borrowed language, and you start to sound like you know yourself without actually doing the work to get to know yourself. And then obviously the internet rewards that because it looks like growth, it performs like growth, and obviously it keeps you coming back to the next video. But real growth is slower, it's messier, and it's also cyclical. You're not gonna get a one-stop shop answer to all your problems. That is not what life is about. Unfortunately, life is about ups and downs. It's about the struggles. It's about the happiness. It's about the nuances. It's about everything. All the cycles, all rolled up into one. And I think we always want to like skip past those things and we want to avoid those real life experiences, but unfortunately we can't. But yes, there are a lot of Temu philosophers out there. Thank you for coining that term. I love it. And I'm going to be using it. But I want to be clear, this is not about being mean to people. This is not about acting like people who are trying to help people and who are giving out generic advice. They're not, I mean, I don't know, they might have malice, but I don't think they do. And everyone has to start from somewhere. But just the difference is experience. The difference is, can you take or leave the advice that you are consuming? The things that I talk about on this channel are identity work, burnout, loneliness from experience, and boxes people have built around you that you didn't even build yourself, and the grief of outgrowing versions of yourself that you once really clung onto and really made you feel a sense of belonging. It came from me quitting jobs, navigating mental health, moving countries, building things, tearing them back down again, rebuilding things, and being the person in the room that couldn't be contained in the niche that I was told to be contained in. So personally, that is not Temu philosophy. That's just my life that I've processed out loud with the world to see. The most important education you will ever receive cannot be found on YouTube. And I know that is something that has been regurgitated throughout time. As they say, there's nothing new under the sun. Of course, you're going to hear things that you've heard before. Majority of the things that we talk about now are in biblical texts or have been regurgitated from ancient civilizations for generations and centuries, of course. But what's new is individual experiences. It happens when you talk to someone and you realize you don't like that conversation or you don't like that trait about that person. When you try something and you discover it's not for you. When you do something everyone else is doing and they keep telling you, you should do it. And you realize, oh, no, not my vibe. You cannot be taught how to live your life. However, you can be given frameworks to help you understand in retrospect. And this is hopefully what this channel does. But the living has to happen first. The community has to happen first. The conversations have to happen first. I am not somebody who knows or has any answers, if I'm honest. I'm just here living in a 3D world with what I think is a 5D mindset. I see all sides and I see the sides that nobody else but me can see about my experience. The good news is people are really getting tired of this like overload information, and we are really tapping into people's experiences instead of the advice life that we have been living for very, very long. And I love to see it because that's where, you know, I think I thrive, is talking about my experience and also relating to people. I think empathy is lost because we always have to make it seem like our experience is the only experience, and we never actually just want to have conversations and learn from people and just share our knowledge. We always want to tell people what's right. Well, this happened to me, so it's probably going to happen to you, so I'm going to give you some advice to change that. Instead of actually listening, actively listening to the person's experience and potentially giving advice based off of them, not based off of you. A lot of people can't do that. So the shift from information sharing to experience sharing is the most important thing happening right now, and it's very exciting. And it's why community matters way more than audience. An audience consumes and a community shares. I'm not here to tell you how to live. I'm not here to be a philosopher, whether it be Temu or freaking Gucci. I'm none of those things. I'm here to share my lived experience and give you the space to share yours too. So to the person who called me a Temu philosopher, thank you so much for the content. I was already going to film something like this anyway, but you just fueled that. And so I really appreciate it. Any engagement is good engagement. So if anyone else wants to troll me and give me another idea video, you're more than welcome. But also go outside, touch some grass, have an experience, and then maybe we can discuss it together. So just really quickly, flow check for you guys. What is one thing you can only understand through experience? Not reading or watching or taking advice. Something you have to have lived through to understand.